Harrison's going to slap me, but because we talked about it all week last week. But man, I realized finally that storage is the whole home UPS. It's not, it's the dirty power of the grid and supply and demand, and that those people coming on the grid, it's that turns in a whole home into a UPS that protects all of our devices.
Today on the channel, we have Kyle, we have Harrison from Supplied Energy. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining. Why don't we start with you, Kyle? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, what you offer, and a little bit about you and your background.
Sure, thanks. Thanks for having us. So I'm the president of Supplied Energy. We're a wholesaler, distributor, and we sell various technologies around electrification. So we have locations in Austin, Tulsa Metro, St. Louis Metro on the Illinois side, Newnan, Georgia, which is Atlanta, and we sell heating and cooling products, as well as mini splits in that space, geothermal heating and cooling systems, water heating systems, solar and storage, electric vehicle chargers as well.
And then Harrison is on your team. Harrison, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what's your background and your role in the company.
Yeah, thanks, William. My name is Harrison Buck. I work outbound sales at Supplied Energy. A little bit about my background, as I come from a geotechnical space, so drilling holes in the ground and getting into the environmental report writing space and that. And also had my start in door-to-door solar sales. So I blended those two together with Supplied Energy, met Kyle, and really hit it off. And I really appreciate how this team is dedicated to electrification and accomplishing net zero capable structures and developments. So that's a little bit about us. And yeah, again, thanks so much for having us, Will.
And really the reason why I'm having you both on this channel is because I am very, very impressed by not only your company and how you're structured, but your value system. You're very much committed to helping customers find energy independence, and you're not just trying to sell them something. You're not just trying to get them into a product so that you could, mark it up and take your margin and go home. You're a family company. You're really flexible when it comes to customer questions and working with the customer to outfit them and retrofit them to meet their energy needs. So let's kind of transition into that perspective that I think is unique and separates you from some of the other suppliers on the market.
We call it the 4-step process. Number one is insulating the home, or the tightening the envelope of the home. You can actually see behind me here. It's all about the ceiling, the walls, and below, even in the earth, and not losing energy. So insulation does not break down. It does not fail. And we jokingly say we're the best insulation salespeople out there, even though we just don't sell it. So we highly recommend, no matter what the project is, and no matter how you heat and cool, that you insulate your home the best you possibly can. Well, and as part of that insulation, it reduces our need for heating and cooling. So that's number two. We want to turn everything into all electric appliances and needs in the home. So if you look at the average home in the United States, 75% of the loads in the home are from heating, cooling, and water heating. The remaining balance is TVs, fridges, freezers, things that are very easy to change out and exchange. And then the third thing is solar. So we've turned all of our items to all electric. We cannot make fossil fuels, right? So we cannot make natural gas, we cannot make propane, and we cannot make heating oil. So we can make electric, and then that's what we do with solar. So whenever we apply solar now, our all electric heating, cooling, and water heating items in the home can now be powered by that solar, and at least make the meter spin backwards, hopefully. And then the number 4 reason is the storage side. So that's the batteries of a home, electric vehicle charging. So we can use those batteries in the cars and the vehicles as part of our storage in the home, but also so that our solar now can power our vehicles. So electric or electrification is our future because of convenience too. So there's that whole 4-step process is truly what I believe is our future.
And I think you brought up a really good point that most people don't think about. We cannot create more fossil fuels. Now, we could continue to try to locate them We could drill for them, we could survey for them, but we can't create more. And with a population that's demanding more and more electricity as it grows, as we become more reliant on technology, we become more electrified as a society, we're just going to demand more and more electricity. And even with Texas being a natural gas and oil and gas state, we have more people moving here than ever before. I think I was reading somewhere in, about 3,000 people per day are moving here from other states and from other countries. And we have this grid that's been around for 100 plus years. That's not getting any younger. And so that demand is going to be, more aggressive on that grid than in years prior, which is why we're seeing a lot of grid failures, power outages, rolling brownouts, blackouts. And so what I think your approach does to help the Texas grid, to help the Texas market and our Texas customers is not just to think about how can we produce more power through solar to make up for the difference in cost or what we're having to pay, or make up for the spikes in natural gas prices that happen every year. You're taking a step back and saying, how much can we conserve first, right? Let's, without giving up comfort, without giving up our ability to operate our homes as we want, but just sealing the cracks, tightening the envelope. How can we conserve? And then how can we produce, which is second, and then how can we store? And I think that battery storage piece is making more and more sense as we go forward here, because batteries used to be something that was a nice to have, but not a need to have. And it was super expensive. But now with the technology advancing, and also with how the utilities aren't playing nice anymore, utilities are tacking on time of use rates now. Now they're tacking on, surcharges for natural gas price spikes, or you have co-ops that aren't reimbursing you or compensating you through net metering or buyback programs. They're just keeping whatever extra production that you're kicking back out on the grid. So now more than ever, it's been, really something that we need to consider is the whole approach to managing our energy, generating our energy, and storing our energy, that I think that you do a really great job helping with, which kind of brings me to our next topic, which I know, Harrison, you have a big background in energy conservation and environmental conservation. There's a large part of our audience that is really concerned with climate change. So can you talk a little bit about how your approach and your perspective and how Supply Energy could help the net zero target that many businesses and many customers are really after in this market?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I totally think that as people go into the all electric space, and they're getting rid of the use of fossil fuels, not only are they helping climate change and their emissions into the atmosphere, but they're also bringing their power on site, and they're becoming independent, and they have a sense of ownership in that power, and not only ownership in that power, but they can feel secure in knowing the fact that they're not adding to the problem, and that's a big part of it as well. And that's what at Supplied Energy we're looking to do and offer a solution for the people we work with.
One of the things I like about your approach is you're not just looking at new construction or new build. So Erickson, can you talk a little bit about how, if I'm an existing solar customer, or if I've been in a home for extended period of time, am I able to retrofit and bring my home closer towards energy independence? What are my options? Let's say I'm on natural gas, or I'm on propane. I'm not all electric like many of these new homes here are in Texas. What are my options? Is this even something that I could look forward to doing with my existing home?
Yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely. New homes or retrofit, you can add these systems in. If you have an existing solar array, say you want to add storage to it, we can make that happen. Same goes for heating and cooling. If you need to rework your air duct system, or if you want to install an air source mini split, we can help with that. And we work as an HVAC, a licensed HVAC contractor in Texas, to make these things happen.
So referencing the four-step process, it's a journey. You can jump in at any point. New construction, you kind of follow it in process though, because you have an opportunity when the walls are down and you're at the studs. That's when you can do it right. And then so you're bringing down the loads of the home for the heating and cooling. And so when that happens, you're reducing the size need for your heating and cooling system, which makes it cheaper, makes it run more efficiently, using less kilowatt hours, and then replacement parts are cheaper too. So it really just depends on the home and retrofit or new construction, and you can do one or the other first, but the idea is reduce, 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 and your solar will have more coverage.
If I'm a customer looking to retrofit my home, I have a fixed budget, so I may not be able to do steps 1 through 4, this year. Where would I start? Where's the most cost-effective place to start? Where should I start looking to budget if I'm wanting to just do a little bit now and then a little bit later and so on and so forth? Well, what's the best place for me to start?
I would say a contractor that knows what they're doing and that cares about your home, you as a family and your home. So it really depends on getting good advice and good consultation, like yourself. And it just depends really on the stage of what you have in front of you on a retrofit then. How good of shape is your air conditioner in? Because generally people have a lot of air conditioners. We call those condensers and not so much heat pumps. So what they're doing their heating with is natural gas or propane. We're going to switch that over to all electric if at all possible. And we do that with a heat pump. And a heat pump uses the air to extract heat and removes the heat from the house and dumps it into the ambient air outside. So it just reverses cycle. So that's a great usual point to reduce loads as much as possible. And if you're relatively efficient, solar is a great place to start too, and storage.
So let's talk about that technology, because I think our customers don't have a really good understanding of air source and geothermal technology. I know I didn't, coming from the utility business, we didn't really deal in that space. I mean, it was natural gas and wires, and obviously we got into microgrids and some other things that kind of drove me into this industry. But let's talk a little bit about what that technology is. How does that technology work? If I am a homeowner, why should I even consider utilizing a heat pump, an air source with some geothermal application?
Sure. It really depends on what's best for the application. The EPA says the most efficient system that there is available for heating and cooling a home is geothermal, otherwise known by the technical term as a ground source heat pump. So you might hear it as a ground source heat pump, a geothermal heat pump, geothermal period, but that's where we use the earth as our source. So otherwise, a condenser or air conditioner or refrigerator. Let's start with a refrigerator. You stand at the fridge, you open the door, it's cold blasting out your face, but what do you feel at your toes? You feel heat. So what that refrigeration system is doing is removing heat out of the fridge and getting rid of it. We do the same thing with a home. So we're removing heat out of the home and dumping it outside. And that's how an air conditioner simply works. So that's where we're talking about the source side is the exterior. So we use the earth with geothermal as our source, and that's always an ambient temperature on the in the ground of Texas. It could be 75 degrees. As you get further north, it goes lower. Illinois, for example, is about 55, 56 degrees. But it just really depends on the size of the home and the size of the system on how we're able to essentially liquid cool a home at the most efficient way possible.
So I got a trick question for you. So we recently moved into this home, and I did a whole video on us installing our solar system. And one of the things that I found, because I was trying to monitor our usage, was on the days where we were at about 72 degrees and above exterior, I was only pulling about 30, 35 kilowatt hours per day. When we had the freeze, and on the day where we had 29 degrees was our high, I used 267 kilowatt hours that day. What the heck, man? What am I doing wrong? What happened?
That's because that exterior temperature, it's the swings. If you're 55 degrees outside and you want your home to be 72 degrees, it's not working. Your heating and cooling system's not, or your heating in that case, wouldn't be working very hard to get you there. But as it's still being all electric, while you're referencing, if you go down to that low temperature outside, now we're working really hard. And that's where we're using a fuel. And that fuel is electricity in this case. So our electricity or our heat pump is burning that energy, and that's why we're using it so much. So ground source is the most efficient and looks the best on paper when we apply the extremes. So
before we kind of transition and kind of close off here, what would you say is the best way to take a look at your product? What's the best way for customers to dig in deep if they want guidance on that 4-step process, how to become more efficient, what type of solar system to put in, what options that they have, including if they want to do a retrofit for some geothermal applications?
The best way to go about that study is to check in with contractors like yourself, Will. You are their consultant. You are their driving force, and to help them with that. And then we help companies like yourself. So we at Supplied Energy, I feel like, have a decent website, and we're always adding to it. So that's a great resource because it's not about not one product or the other that we distribute. It's about how we put them together and how they make an application. You guide your customers through that application. You help them through that. And I know enough about you and the experience that we have together that you do a great job of that because you understand it. One thing about solar companies is you'll typically hear is like they'll even disqualify somebody if they look them up on Google Earth and they see that there's shade, they're out. They're not even going to try. And a company like yours, where you have that consultative approach of what's best, is if somebody's not qualified for solar, which happens a lot, then we still can make them more energy efficient to help them be independent and save a lot of money.
Thank you so much for being part of the team, and thank you for coming on the channel today.
Thanks for having us. This has been awesome. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, William, very much.